Coach Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I am joined by a candidate who was recommended to me by one of our RP family members, Fadl Kaboub. We all love Fadl. You guys know him well. He came to Pennsylvania to be with us Saturday. So thank you so much, Morgan, for joining us. Morgan Harper is actually running in Ohio Congressional District 3. And you're actually my first Ohio for the 2020 race, so that's good.
That's quite a distinction. Nice.
So what got you interested in running to begin with?
Yeah, so, I was born here in Columbus, given up for adoption. I lived in a foster home and then was adopted and raised on the east side. And I got exposed pretty early on by getting financial aid to go to an elite college prep school in the area to income inequality and the economic segregation at play here in Central Ohio, and it led me to pursue a career in public policy. And, recently I've just come to the conclusion that what we're doing from a policy perspective, particularly to get at that issue, isn't working. And there is a movement happening to do the things that would make sure that people in this country have enough to live. And I felt like the people in the 3rd District of Ohio would support that type of agenda and should have representation that's talking to it.
So what is the incumbent like?
So the incumbent's name is Joyce Beatty, and she's been in the seat since 2012. I would say a key distinction between our race, which is all grassroots, no corporate PAC money, and the incumbent is she has taken over 80% corporate PAC money, very few small dollar contributors, less than 3%. And what's really incredible though, and a point of pride and excitement right now in our race is that in this last quarter, we actually outraised her by a few tens of thousands of dollars, even though we're taking no PAC money, all individual contributors. So it really, a testament to how much people want to support grassroots candidates and candidates that are going to be free of corporate PAC money to pursue a progressive agenda.
Wow, congrats. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So what other differences are there between, is she a Democrat? Well, literally, is she a Democrat?
Is a Democrat. And, I would say the key differences really are policy differences. So, I have, beyond some of the demographic differences in terms of age, I'm running on a very bold platform. I have a few prongs to the platform, including Medicare for all, Green New Deal. I'm including, housing policies, the federal government, things that they could be doing to ensure everyone in this country has a home, and viewing that as a right, and also systemic reparations. So these are all issue areas that the incumbent's not really speaking much about. And I'm being pretty unapologetic in talking about them, and actually led since day one of this campaign and talking about them.
And has she agreed to do a debate with you?
We haven't had that specific discussion yet. We are both going to be appearing at a climate town hall soon at Ohio State. And so, that's going to be an opportunity to speak to the issue. There'll be other people on the panel, so not really a formal debate, but a place where we'll both be appearing and speaking about what's going on, our position on what needs to be done around climate. We've also both recently been speaking about menstruation equality issue, period tax, and how these products are taxed even though they're really to cover a health need for people who are menstruating. So that was a recent topic that we were both speaking on publicly. And, I would love to have a debate. So that's something that, if someone's willing to host it, I would certainly be there.
And I'm down. I don't know.
Yeah, you're going to have to make the trip.
I just, a month ago or so, I had a debate between the 3 people running against Pelosi. So that was fun. I had all 3 of them.
Oh,
she
wow.
declined,
Okay, yeah.
So,
and I think that's really, an important point, because I get a lot of questions, locally, and sometimes, from people out of state too. It's like, well, why are you doing this? Running against another Democrat? It's like, we have Republicans and Trump and all this. And it's like, well, no, this is this is a very, well, one, we all know not all Democrats are created equal, and this is a very gerrymandered district. And the only way that voters will have a choice in a gerrymandered district is with another Democrat running. So being able to have, an opportunity for folks to have some policy choices in this, we have to be running, especially more progressive challengers. That's how we're getting these issues on the table.
Absolutely. And I always tell my candidates, even if you don't win, you're inadvertently making them move left because they're seeing, oh shit, the people are rallying around this person who supports this and this. I better at least start, changing, becoming more progressive. So yeah, absolutely.
We're going to win.
Yeah, I can see that, honestly. And how about this? Susan Sarandon, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was wild.
How did you meet her?
Well, last week was pretty crazy because, the presidential Democratic debate was held here in Westerville, which is a community, a city that's north of Columbus proper, where I'm running. Only a little bit of it is in the district, but everybody was kind of like descending on Columbus because the debate was here. So a lot of journalists and all of that. And we just happened to be at a rally that the Young Turks organized, and we were invited to speak at that. And then I didn't even know going in that Susan Sarandon was going to be there, but then I kind of looked down, I'm like, oh, Thelma and Louise, she's here, so that was pretty crazy. And I spoke, and then she spoke after, and we were able to connect after the event. So that was, quite a coincidence, but just so many people in town for the debate. So that's how that all came about.
So has she, her posts seem like an endorsement. It is an actual endorsement?
Well, I guess you'd have to ask her. She did post, and, she's been supportive. So that's cool.
She asked us to send donations. That's pretty damn close to an endorsement.
That works for me, right? Yeah. No, that was cool. I guess that, I don't know what counts as an endorsement officially. There's no questionnaire for Susan Sarandon, or we also got Roxane Gay to tweet, which was pretty cool. So when it's people that just endorse without having an official questionnaire, I don't know how that works, but I'll take it either way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was funny because I commented, "Oh my God, I'm having Morgan on," and I said, "Susan, there's no one I'd rather have on." Like, I'm not kidding. For 2 years, I've been like, if I could have one guest, it's Susan. And then she followed me.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh my God, I just got goosebumps. I was like fangirl. It was bad. I was like,
I'm gonna take a little credit for that. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I wanted to tell you. I was like, oh my God, if she wouldn't have posted about you, I wouldn't have said that. And then, so that was my fangirl moment.
Morgan Harper for Congress. We're spreading the wealth here. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're organizing, even to Philly.
Sorry, guys, I digress. Susan wants to know if you understand MMT. Now, you've been working with Fadl, who is like our, family member who is like MMT guru. So what is your take on MMT? Are you opening up to it, or?
Yeah, Fadl's, we've been having conversations about that, kind of learning. I like the premise, because a lot of questions you get when you're running on this type of platform is, how do we pay for it? And being able to have some backing to how we can pay for it, right? That the federal government has the resources to support this. We decide on priorities and we execute those priorities. And so, I think a lot of people are confused about that, and it's good, through the campaign to actually educate folks about what's possible. And people want to believe in what's possible, and not only possible, but actually something that we can execute if we can build coalitions to support and pass this type of legislation. So having, kind of like that foundation is useful in explaining to people how we can actually get this done, get these policies done.
Absolutely. And also, do you support, I know you mentioned Green New Deal. Yeah. It seems like some of the presidential candidates always like to leave out the federal job guarantee part of that. Is that something you support?
That is something I support. And, it's actually something that I think is one of the most compelling points that I talk about when I'm traveling around the third district, where, we're in a state with a minimum wage that's at $8, 55 cents an hour. We have a city where housing costs to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, you need to be making at least $17 an hour. It's like the math doesn't add up. People aren't, even though the economy has been growing in Central Ohio, the wages are not matching the cost of living. And so, we see there that the market isn't serving us, right? And we, have the ability to do something about that. And so I love that. And people, want to hear that we have an opportunity here to create jobs while also addressing climate change, invest in the clean energy sector, invest in public transportation. And people want that, right? The ability to earn living wages while also contributing and building our communities. And a lot of the communities here in the third district need rebuilding because there has been a generation of disinvestment, a lot of drugs, a lot of people that don't have the types of job opportunities that lead them to stay free of getting into these other types of activities. And we've got to do something about that. So yeah, I am supportive of that. And I really like that aspect of the Green New Deal.
Absolutely. What is another component of the Green New Deal that you find that we need to pay attention to and quickly?
Well, I mean, we're clearly in a climate crisis. So the whole premise of the Green New Deal that climate change is happening and we've got to be moving very, very quickly to reduce carbon emissions. So that's just like baseline. And that's another thing that's very compelling to people in the third district that are aware of that. And now, I think more people are becoming aware of the climate issue, which I think used to be somewhat esoteric for people. It's like, oh yeah, climate change, whatever. That'll be something like in many generations we'll be feeling the impact of, and now we're seeing it's like, no, we are actually having, pollution levels that are not sustainable and the temperatures are changing and you can really see that. And it's impacting our children with asthma rates that, the air is not, of a high quality. And so it has become a bit more of a local issue for people, which I do believe is an opportunity to build support for the policy. And then also being very real about, in a lot of bold policies that were, passed at the federal level, like something like the Green New Deal, they were not inclusive of communities of color, particularly Black people. And we want to also lead with making clear that that is not going to be repeated in this case. And so, I think all of that together is what makes the Green New Deal really appealing. And I would just say, I mean, even people, and I'll ask you like, oh, have you ever heard of the Green New Deal? And I'll be honest. I mean, most people have not, that I'm talking to as I'm going around canvassing and all of that. But that's where, we just break it down very quickly and directly for people about like those components that, I just discussed. And people get it because they want to have high-paying jobs. They want to be, contributing to the community. And they also are seeing that climate change is real. We can't just keep denying this, right? Because it's not clear that there's even a future that we're all preparing for, particularly those that have children, grandchildren. So we really need to be moving very quickly.
Absolutely. And what way can we do that besides a federal job guarantee? How can we do all these things in 10 years?
Exactly. Yeah. No, and just acknowledging the urgency of it all. Yeah, another, not to rail through all the questions I get about why are you doing, but another one that I get is, well, why don't you wait? Like I said, it's a gerrymandered district right now. After the census, there'll be a redraw in a couple of years. And like, well, why don't you wait till the redraw? And it's like, because we are in a crisis situation about the climate, some other topics that I just discussed. And we need to be moving quickly if we have any hope of actually being able to act within the window of having an ability to change the course of things, right? So yeah, I feel a tremendous amount of urgency, and I like that the policy does as well, and it captures that urgency that's necessary.
Absolutely. Is it just you and the incumbent?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's good. At least there's no other neolibs or anything like that.
Yeah. It's just going to be a primary so far between the two of us, and that's on March 17th, 2020. So more months to go.
Wow. Mark is a teammate. He said he donates to you, so he's excited.
Thank you, Mark. Where are all the teammates? Can I ask a question? Yeah, where are all the teammates? We have like all 50 states represented. What's the?
Oh, we have even people from other countries in
cool.
our team. We have Rose. She's from Vegas. Jeffrey. Oh yeah, we got a bunch in here, and you could see all the comments afterwards as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. Now I see
Because
those.
and they'll post like your website and all that too.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but another thing that kind of about the federal job guarantee is it's so good for formerly incarcerated people because, as you know, they can get a job then. They don't have to worry about all the discrimination and such. So leading into that, what would you do about criminal justice reform? What do you think are some of the most important aspects that we need to change?
Well, I think we need to not criminalize as much behavior. I mean, we're spending so much money to incarcerate people and putting them in conditions where, maybe occasionally someone will leave those types of conditions and be able to establish a functioning life. But, there's a lot of trauma that's happening in that environment that makes it difficult to bounce back from, even if you are to be released. And it's really just a waste of resources and a lot of people making money off of people's problem, or criminalizing of behavior. And so, I really think we need to decriminalize some more behavior and also just not put people in prison as much for as long and really focus on how do we enable people to, re-enter into communities, like you're saying, get back to work, and reunited with families. I really just think it's enormously inefficient how much money is being made off of keeping people in prison. So that would be a top priority. And rethinking some of our sentencing. I don't know that we need to, even for crimes that have been committed, that we need to be putting people away for so long. So yeah. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see on your website you talk about you are the daughter of your mom was a Trinidad immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
So with everything going on with immigrants and so much hate and ICE and everything, what is that like for you?
Yeah, it's really troubling. I mean, this vilification of immigrants and somehow that immigrants are, taking down our society that this administration is promoting. It's really offensive and it goes against the values of our country, certainly our community here in Central Ohio, where 11% of the population of the third district is foreign born. My mom, is from Trinidad. She immigrated here in the 60s. She became a citizen 10 years ago or so, about 10 years ago. And even she, I think, is feeling a little bit, of that chilling effect of like having this kind of discourse take place and rhetoric of, hating immigrants or having people that are targeted by ICE. I was like, well, am I safe here? Am I also considered American in all of this? And there's really there's no place for that. This is a country that is built on being open and welcoming, in theory, to people that are coming from other countries. And, we need to stay true to our values and make sure that we don't use our government to terrorize families and separate them. So, here in the third district, I've been working with a woman named Elias Espinal, who is living in sanctuary, and her daughter and her family has been, in addition to she herself, have been advocating that she should not have to be deported. She received a deportation order from ICE, though she was brought here as a minor, living, had children, working, just leading a normal life. And in this new administration, she received a deportation order and now is living in a church on the north side of Columbus. And, it's not okay. It's not okay. And so I met her pretty early on in the campaign, and really just as a human, as a community member, citizen, committed to doing everything I could to help her. And, that's what it's going to take, to fight back against this type of hatred, is really, organizing ourselves, our communities, to make it clear that we're not going to stand for this and hopefully get rid of this administration.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I liked reading your info about yourself on your page is that it's very clear that you were involved way before Trump. You were, an activist and everything prior to. That's something I look at with candidates immediately. You worked at Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Yeah.
So you had quite an interesting job. Can you kind of describe what that was like, trying to help we the people?
Yeah, I started at CFPB in the Office of Regulation, so I was writing rules, literally. I probably a lot of people don't even think about, each little, regulation, it has like a person that's actually creating all of those words. I don't know that I even fully appreciated that until I was doing it. And I was that person. So I was part of a rulemaking team that was coming up with regulations for the prepaid card market. So that's a, financial product that's kind of like a banking alternative. You can buy prepaid cards in, your drugstore, CVS, whatever, Walgreens, and get your direct deposit actually directly on a prepaid card from your employer. So a lot of people use that instead of having to pay checking account fees or whatever. But with any financial product, as we all know, there is room for abuse, and companies maybe not being as clear as they could be about what fees are associated with those types of products and the prepaid cards. So we created regulations for that market. And then I eventually became one of the first directors, policy advisors, and was covering, a range of issues like payday lending, credit reporting, mortgage servicing. Really the Bureau was created after the financial crisis to try to consolidate the regulation of a lot of consumer financial products, because, the thought was, because the jurisdiction for regulating these products was spread throughout a lot of agencies, there wasn't, one agency was just focused on consumer financial products, and so wanted to consolidate some of the jurisdiction into one place, and then have people that were more highly trained and focused on making sure that the consumer financial markets were safe for working people who don't have time to read the fine print, kind of just need companies to like do the right thing and not take advantage of them, and so that's what we were working every day to ensure, through using the enforcement tools, suing companies when they were taking advantage of people, rule writing like I was doing, also, consumer education, creating products that kind of walked people through when they were going to get a mortgage to make sure that they understood their rights and ability to negotiate on certain fees and terms. So, really, to me, CFPB is an example of what the federal government can do when it's given the tools and resources to actually work for us and help us. We return $12 billion back to 28 million consumers across the country. And that was something that, gives me the belief in this platform that I've seen it. The federal government can work. And, we have been kind of deluded into thinking that somehow that's irresponsible to just put resources into the federal government to work for us. And I was part of an agency where those resources were put to good use every single day and improved working people's bottom line. So it was a great experience, and great because it actually impacted people in a positive way.
Right on. Mark said we love activists who run for office. Douglas says Ohio needs all the help it can get. Thanks for interviewing Morgan.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, yeah, I think, what's exciting to me about the campaign is a lot of people come up to me and are just so grateful that, I'm running, that they had seen races in the last cycle in other parts of the country and bigger cities, New York, Boston, and thinking like, wow, that's so cool, but that could never happen in Ohio, right? We could never have a real progressive candidate, and showing through this race that, we can do this. It's possible. And, that rally I was talking about around the debate time, when I started my remarks, I asked people, how many people are from Central Ohio? How many people are from Ohio? And most of the room was raising their hands. And that to me is just, it's so exciting, because I know we can do this. I know we can win this race. I know that we can build a progressive Ohio of the future, but we really need to have leaders that are ready to, and with that focus of accomplishing that, free of the corporate money, and just trying to get things done and make people believe in what politics and government can accomplish for us. So it's exciting.
Can you also touch on the housing as a human right? Do you believe in, do you support putting caps on rent?
So I do have, let me say, because that was also a pretty critical theme for me, getting to the point of, I'm going to run for Congress. I'm running now because, I had been working for a community development organization that invests in affordable housing. And I would say, the existing toolkit for affordable housing is pretty emblematic of the kind of like incremental approaches and a lot of market-based policy approaches that we have been trained are responsible, whatever. And we see they are not working, right? Because we have an affordable housing crisis. We have an accompanying homelessness crisis that is happening even in places like Columbus, Ohio, that some people might think of as, more affordable or whatever. You have tent cities in this city, in this region. And just really feeling like we're not getting it done, right? And when we kind of know what would get it done, and it's not that complicated. And the federal government used to do it, which is, investing in building more housing, and also given, the changing dynamics of a lot of cities and here in the 3rd district, we have increasing number of renters. We've got to do something to stabilize people's rent. So I have national rent stabilization as part of the platform, because right now, and not right now, I mean, for most of, I don't know, most of our history, I would say, except for some exceptions in some cities, we kind of let landowners, property owners do whatever they want. And that doesn't have to be like that, right? We can put boundaries on how much you profit off of property ownership, especially given the history of property ownership in this country. It hasn't always been a very equitable thing, right? And so, to have a small set of people that are making money off of really exploiting people through rent gouging and all of that, it's not okay. It's not acceptable, and people should have some predictability around how much they're going to be spending on housing. So I thought it was pretty important to include national rent stabilization in the platform, and along with increasing the supply of housing, to make sure that people do have an ability to access stable housing, which is, a key tenet of a stable life. If you don't have housing stability, a lot of other things start to go off the rails, and we need to do more to protect and create an opportunity for families to lead stable lives, and individuals, children, all of that. So I really felt strongly about including that as part of the platform from the start.
Absolutely. So we're going to kind of digress a bit, but
okay.
you stated you support Medicare for all.
Yeah.
And what kind of Medicare for all do you support? Yeah. Because it feels weird asking that, but because of the presidential race and there's so much like Fox-gressive stuff, do you support like Bernie Care, which is no for-profit insurance companies involved, mm-hmm. or can you kind of touch on what you mean when you say Medicare for all?
Yeah, so Medicare for all, I mean that everybody needs to be in the same system for this to work. And right now we have a system where, there's kind of like multiple options, but what happens with that is you have people are able to kind of split off into different types of care in the insurance industry and all of that, and we don't have the ability to control costs. And so, I believe in having a system where everybody is part of the same system, and that's how we're going to make sure that everyone in this country actually has access to healthcare, and we are paying an efficient amount of money to cover, people's healthcare. And we see the issue right now, right? It's like even people that have insurance, when you ask them, hey, do you like your healthcare? It's like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's like, do you like your insurance company? It's like, no, I don't like my insurance company, right? It's like, I've been in jobs where I've had insurance coverage, but it's absolutely fine until something actually goes wrong. And then you find out, you do the little dance of reading the paperwork and the coverage and qualifying, and that you're not going to be covered for the actual moment when you need healthcare coverage, right? And then you're going to pay all of this out of pocket. So, this to me is because we have a lot of power on the side of insurance companies, and we need to just have everybody in, single payer system for this to work. And also it's just going to save a lot of money actually by, not spending as much money on all of this uncontrolled or unpredictable costs, and we'll be all in the same system. So that to me is what, I am advocating for with Medicare for all.
Absolutely. Do you also support, if something like when Senator Sanders proposed putting a cap on prescription drug prices, if that would come to your desk, is that something that you would approve?
Yeah, I think that's pretty important because, I'm meeting a lot of people in the district that are rationing drugs. And these are people, elderly people who have worked their whole lives, and they are now finding that, even if you're diabetic or, blood pressure medicated, like pretty critical medications, that they can't afford to keep up with the prices of them, even if they are, getting Medicare. And so we need to do something to control prescription drug costs in this country. No one in the United States of America should be rationing medication in order to cover, critical health issues. And we've just let this system go on for so long, and the employer-based system is just not serving us, and we know it's not, and it doesn't have to be like this. And we have plenty of models where, in other countries where it's not like this. So we just need to get to work to implementing this. And I do think controlling prescription drug costs is a big part of that as well, because it's a huge expense for people. And, talk about unpredictable. I mean, it's crazy how much power the drug companies have. So yeah, that's something that needs to be addressed as well.
Absolutely. As far as going and canvassing and talking to people, is there someone's story that really sticks out to you that's kind of epitomizes why you're running?
Yeah, there's so many, and it's almost hard to even think about all of them, because I find it really emotional, to hear from so many people that are struggling. And it can be frustrating, especially when, the story here is the economy is booming. And it's like, you don't have to go very far for very long to just know that that's not the case for a lot of people, for most people. And we really need to do something about that. So, recently we were going around the district, and we stopped in a barbershop that is in a neighborhood that's kind of on the north side of Columbus. And I met a couple in there, and, it was interesting. It's like an older Black guy's barbershop, but, it was when we were going around with the New York Times reporter who was in town and asking us about, show me the part of Columbus or Central Ohio that, informs your platform, right? And I was like, oh, well, that'll be easy, because there's many neighborhoods and places to choose from. But anyway, we took him to this barbershop. Older Black guy, runs the barbershop, is grown up in the community. And I tell him, like, oh, I've got this reporter here. He wants to see, the part of Columbus that informs the platform. And the owner starts laughing, because he's like, oh, all right, well, take a look over there, right? I've got an older white couple who's in the barbershop hanging out, because if they stay in the town where they're from, they will be put in jail for being homeless. And so they hang out in this barbershop until they can go sleep in their tent for the night, and they have nowhere else to go during the day. And how did they get in this situation? Because the guy, and he lifts up his shirt and shows me, he had one surgery, 2 surgery, couldn't cover the medical cost of that, lost his job. The stress of it also led his partner to lose her job. And then they couldn't bounce back, and they don't want to go into the shelter system because they're technically not married. And so they won't be able to stay together, and they want to be able to stay together. So this to me is like, if we need any other sign that what we're doing is not working, well, there you have it. And we have people that through medical problems are being sent into financial ruin and housing instability that is almost impossible to bounce back from, especially when you're at their age. And it's not okay.
Wow, that's heartbreaking. And not an isolated incident, like you said. That's awful. Let's say you get elected tomorrow, your first day. What is the thing you want to work on immediately? What is priority?
I know. I get this question. It's really tough. And I know it's an unsatisfied answer, but really, the 4 things that I have, well, actually, we just added a prong to the platform on public safety, but, the things that I've included in the platform are all so important to me, because, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Morgan, this is everything. It's like, yeah, it's everything, because we have a lot of work to do and a lot of things to address to make sure that this country is working for everyone. And so, financial stability, including Medicare for all, to make sure that financial emergencies are not, or medical emergencies aren't derailing people, in their lives and finances. Very important. Housing, very important. Systemic reparations, like I said, I mean, if we're truly talking about a true progressive that's built on justice and equality, we have to be real about the injustices of the past, particularly from a federal policy level to Black people in this country. And the climate, it is a crisis. It is an emergency. We know what needs to be done to address it, and we've got to get to work on that.
Have you tried to look into how reparations would work? Is it feasible to do it in a district, or would it have to be state, federal?
I think it would need to be, the way it gets implemented, I think, would apply at a local level perhaps, but I think we need to be examining it from a national level, because, the policies like redlining, for example, building freeways through Black communities that disconnected economic opportunity. Those were federal policies. And so, really to be able to address that issue, we have to be, and I almost think we would benefit from, a national effort to implement solutions around that. And so, I think that would, need to be federal, but then it could look like something that plays out at more of a local level, distributing one idea that we've been discussing with people in the district is where there are a lot of neighborhoods in Central Ohio that are gentrifying, previously disinvested neighborhoods that now have new people moving in that are, earning higher incomes and kind of changing the neighborhood. That, maybe think about existing residents that are living in those neighborhoods, canceling property taxes or, managing their ability to age in place, maintain that asset, and have something to pass on to the next generation. So, that would be kind of like implemented at the local level, but, thinking about those solutions, being applied at a national scale.
Absolutely. So with the presidential campaigns going on, is there anyone who stands out to you that you're finding inspiring or that you're leaning towards voting for?
Well, I'm happy to see that, some of the candidates are really speaking to policy. Obviously, my platform is informed by some of the policies that some of the candidates are speaking to, that are just being real. I mean, I think that's what people are ready for. People that are being real about what's going on, what's not working, and they're actually going to talk about bold solutions that would do something about that. So, those are the candidates that I most closely align with, and that, people in the district that are most excited about our platform align with too. And, we'll see how everything plays out, but I'm just excited to be in this era right now where we're talking about true progressive policies that are thinking about what's possible and not just what we can negotiate against ourselves to accept, right? Things that are actually going to have an impact on working families in this country that are desperate for leaders that are ready to actually lead and do something and invest in us and invest in our communities.
Right, absolutely. No middle ground. I'm reading these comments. It would have to be federal common problem. Yes. Good news is federal government can afford to do it all. That's right, Rebecca. So,
and a lot of people are confused about that, and it is interesting where people are like, well, how do you pay for it? It's like, how do we pay for a lot of I mean, we paid for, GI Bill. We paid for things that made no sense. The Iraq War, we paid for bailing out banks, right? It's like, but once it starts talking about using federal resources to actually invest in working people, it's like, whoa, where are you coming from with this? It's like, no, we do this all the time. It's just, we haven't done it in a while in a way that would actually support real people and working people, right? In our communities that really need the resources.
And this is a really broad question, but what are your thoughts on foreign policy? I know, like, one of the problems many progressives have is that some of the people running for president voted for Trump's $700 billion war budget.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your stand on foreign policy? Are you for interventionism? Are you end wars? Where do you kind of stand on that?
Well, I think we spend way too much money on defense and kind of taking on this role of policing the world. And I really would love to see some of that money and resources and, manpower diverted into domestic priorities, because we have a lot of work to do in our communities. And, it's all over the country, but certainly here in the 3rd District. And so, that's another response I have to the, how do we pay for it question is like, well, we spend a lot of money on never-ending wars, and how about we start addressing the real trauma and disinvested that has happened in our own communities, and really, building back these communities and creating the infrastructure that's going to allow a next generation to really flourish. And we're not there yet. So, I mean, generally speaking, I don't think we should be as involved as we are, and we could be, using those resources to a lot of domestic priorities that would make a huge difference for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw you know how gives you those memories, like this is your 1 year memory of when you posted this. Well, yesterday I saw a meme that I posted, and it said if another country was doing these things to our country, we'd be at war. And I was like, holy shit, that's profound, because it's true. Like, our country can do so much better. So as far as your campaign goes, are you guys open primary?
Meaning no endorsement?
No, meaning do you have to register Dem to vote, or?
I'm registered. Yeah, I'm running as a Democrat. Yeah. So my race in launching my campaign, it created a primary. Usually the incumbent, or the past few cycles, the incumbent's been running as a Democrat in the Democratic primary, but unopposed. So not really.
People in Ohio want to vote for you and they're Republican or independent, do they have to change?
Yes, but people can change on the spot to just decide they want to vote in the Democratic primary. And, and our election it's on March 17th, 2020, same time as when people go to vote for the Democratic presidential candidates. So, so people could, registered independents could decide they want to vote in this primary and vote for us as well.
So that's what they call semi-open.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody has different rules. It's bananas. There are many people who are very defeatist because of, all the chaos and everything, myself included. We all have.
You don't seem defeatist.
So when somebody says to you, I'd like to vote, but my vote's not going to matter, what's the point? How do you convince someone to say, you know what, just register, just make your voice heard? How do you handle that? What do you say to them?
Well, usually I say, I get it. I mean, we've had a generation of leaders that, not every single person, but for the most part, I would say a political culture that has not served us, has not prioritized using politics and using the resources at their disposal to support building the fabric of our communities and making sure that people are doing well, earning enough money to get by, have access to quality healthcare, housing, all of these things. And so when people are disillusioned, I completely understand it. But that's my pitch to them, is like, look, we are doing this in an entirely different way. It is all grassroots. It is no corporate PAC money. I've never run for even student council, and so I am just coming at this from somebody that has been at this for a while. I mean, I consider this mission of equality, like the mission of my life. And this is what I think we need right now is, leadership in Congress that's going to be part of the movement of getting this country back on track and putting resources into us and using the federal government to do that and really fulfill its own mission of what, is created to do. So I think people respond well to that because, certainly the corporate money thing. I mean, once you say, I'm not a politician and I'm not taking any corporate money to support this, any corporate PAC money to support this race, I've almost been surprised by how much that resonates. But people get it, right? It's like, if you're taking corporate PAC money, you are bought and you are not free to do whatever you want. You're just in there to kind of get rich yourself and you don't really care about us. And I want to show people a whole new vision of what's possible, that no, we can elect people that are not like that actually are just there to get things done and aren't about enriching themselves. So by the end of that pitch, I do think people are, at the very least, more open-minded. But I would say a lot of our canvases, a lot of the door knocking, it starts with this shut down, jaded exterior. And this is even people that, sometimes it's surprising. It's not just people that are kind of like in geographically disconnected places or living in a community that maybe isn't doing so well. It's people that are doing okay, but they just have become very jaded by the political process. They don't see it changing. They don't see people in there that are actually about getting things done. It's all this kind of like careerist mentality to politics, and they're over it. Another common refrain I hear in the district, like, oh, well, what's your top issue? Because usually, we're trying to make sure our platform is, being responsive to what people believe or feeling. And common answer is like, can we take everybody that's in there now, they're being Congress, and just get rid of them and restart, I'm like, yes, we can. March 17th, 2020,
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, how this world would change. Oh my. And you know what? That's a good point, guys. It's my time to remind you, like once a show, that I know the mass majority of us are Bernie supporters, but we need people all over elected to help whoever wins. It's not just one person. We've got to elect people in every state, vote local, vote state, vote county, vote whatever. I vote every year. It's just as important because there's just too many assholes all over. So we just need to like revolve, a revolving door.
Well, and that's the cool thing now, I would say, in, the small dollar movement that, we saw was successful through, some of the presidential candidates, certainly in last 2018 cycle with the congressional candidates, is that's also showing people what's possible, that and empowering people. It's like, yeah, I can drive outcomes in these elections, and I can do it all over the country, and I can do it $5 at a time, and that all adds up. And so, that's really inspiring for me. It makes, me feel more empowered. I think people then are invested in kind of understanding that this is more of a national play, even if, you have your local congressional representative who directly represents you, but they need team members, right? They need allies in Washington if you're actually going to be able to pass legislation. So I think people are a little bit more empowered in that way. And that's really exciting now, about this moment, I think.
Absolutely. Can you leave people with your, let's see, it looks like your website was posted here,
Okay.
your Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff.
Oh, I just run through it all?
Yeah, go for
it. Okay, cool. Okay. Website, morganharper.org. Not Megan. Some people call me Megan. It's not Megan. morganharper.org. Okay. Facebook is MH4OH, Morgan Harper for Congress. I also have a private page, but try to go to the Morgan Harper for Congress page because I'm hitting the limit on these Facebook, how many people you can have following you or whatever. Okay. And then Twitter, MH4OH, and Instagram is also MH4OH. And really, appreciate support from everyone. Follow along, sign up your email so you get our updates, and anything you can do to support the campaign is awesome. But really just cool to connect with folks across the country who believe in these values and are willing to put their minds and hours and dollars behind it. It's really inspiring.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for watching as usual. I do want to say too, I see some people from New Hampshire. You guys have 2 more days to register Democrat to vote in the presidential primary. Don't mess around. No excuses. You takes 30 seconds. Don't complain because you missed it. Do it. I'm not playing. I'll block your ass. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
We need delegates. Damn it. Tomorrow night I'm going to be doing like just a quick stream. I'm going to be in the Bernie section of a Halloween parade. So I'll just go live for a little bit and show you the craziness. I announced on my page yesterday, I filed the paperwork to become a Bernie delegate. So if it is accepted, I will be on the ballot if I get 500 signatures. So wish me luck. And if you're in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area, hit me up. We can have you sign as well, but wish me luck because I'm going to the convention whether I'm there or I'm protesting. So I'm ready either way. I did it last time, you guys know. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Morgan. You're awesome. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Great to be on.
Absolutely. Take care.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.